The record on State versus Lloyd. He's present with his attorney. State attorney's office is present. He's wearing a long sleeve, button down civilian shirt, civilian pants. He's in shackles, but his feet are underneath the table and cannot be seen by the jurors from any point in the courtroom. All right, folks, we ready for the readback? Yeah, you can go ahead and take the evidence back into the jury room. Everybody's agreed on what the readback's content is. State, defense. All right. No objecting during the readback. If there's a problem, I'll ask everybody at the end of each readback to approach, and you can tell me if there's a problem then. Are we reading count 1 first and then count 2? We need to read count 1 first. We need to keep it by count. So let's do count 1 first because it's the longest readback and you'll need the most energy. And then we'll do count 2. Who's first? Which readback is first? Okay. Which witness? Okay, let me write this down because I need to tell them the order they're going to hear this in. So it's Julia Johnson and then Monica Pridgeon. And then who? Then we're going to count 2. All right, so we're going to go to Carter, okay? And then Lloyd. So are you all reading Lloyd as to both counts at one time? Or are you reading, they didn't ask for Lloyd on count 1, that's correct, all right. All right, thanks. If they can't hear you, we'll put a microphone in front of you. Sorry, but they have to be able to hear you.
You on the lapel or you on this?
Does that mic that's in front of the clerks, does that work? Why don't you just turn it on. Put that one in front of her. Just tap it, just make sure it works. Yep, okay. All right, are the jurors ready? All right, tell me when they're ready. You can bring them in. Thanks. All right, let's bring them in. Stay recognized, presence of the jury.
We do, Your Honor.
Defense? Yes, ma'am. All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all had a good night's sleep and you're ready for today. Members of the jury, you've asked that the following testimony be read back to you, and that is the testimony of Julia Johnson, Ms. Pridgeon, Detective Caddis, and Dr. Stephany as to count 1, Captain Carter, and Mr. Lloyd as to count 2. The court reporter will now read back the testimony that you have requested, and they will be reading it in that order. The first read is Julia Johnson. You may proceed.
Direct examination by Mr. Buxman. Would you please introduce yourself to the jury? My name is Julia Johnson. The court. Okay, ma'am, we are not going to be able to hear you. You're going to have to speak way louder. The witness, it's this mask. I'm sorry. The court, they're pretty uncomfortable. The witness, my name is Julia Johnson. By Mr. Buxman, scoot up a little bit to this microphone so this lady over here can hear you. My name is Julia Johnson. All right, where do you work? Now, I work at Amazon. Okay, where did you work before Amazon? I worked at UPS and Walmart and Wawa. All right, during what period of time did you work at Walmart? I worked there from 2016 up until this year. And which Walmart store did you work at? The one on John Young in Princeton. All right, I'll direct your attention to the morning of January 9th of 2017, about 7:15 in the morning. Where were you working that morning? Yes, I was getting off of work. And when did you finish your shift that morning? I finished it a little late, around 7:09. And how do you know it was 7:09? Because I actually forgot to clock out for work. I was going over and I had looked at the time and I had seen that I was late and I had forgot to clock out. Do you actually have to go someplace to physically clock out? Yes, I have to go to a time clock. Okay. Once you finished your shift and clocked out at 7:09, where did you go? I went over to the garden center area because my homeboy was missing his friend and he had called me to see if she was over there. So I went all the way over there to see if she was over there. Did you find your friend? No, I did not. After you walked down to try to find your friend, what did you do? I walked back over to the entrance, the grocery entrance, and sat there and, well, almost sat there and waited for my father to come pick me up. Okay. As you were walking back to the grocery entrance, did you see anybody else that you knew or worked with? Yes, I seen two people running over to the officer's car. Okay. Did you know those people? No, I did not. They were customers. Did you see any other employees that you knew? No. Well, actually, yes. Yes, I did. I did see Miss Liz when I was waiting for my dad at the bench. I did see her. Where was she? Where were you when you saw Liz? She was coming and walking past Miss Debra Clayton's car. Outside of the car? Yes, sir. Mr. Buxman, may I approach the witness, Your Honor? The court, yes. By Mr. Buxman. Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 2 in evidence, do you recognize that diagram? Yes, I do. What generally does this diagram show? It's showing basically the grocery entrance and how the layout of the Walmart is. Mr. Buxman, may I stand here, Your Honor? The court, yes. Mr. Linneman, Judge, can I move? The court, yes, you can. Mr. Buxman, you said after you clocked out at 7:09, you left Walmart. Did you walk out the doors to the grocery entrance? Yes. And which direction did you go, if you could just point to the diagram? I went this way. That's when you were looking for your friend? Yes. After you find your friend, did you walk back to the same grocery entrance doors? Yes, sir, and I stood right there, right here. All right. You mentioned there was an officer's car located nearby. Yes. Where on the diagram would her car have been? Right over here. She parks over by the last two pillars by the pharmacy entrance drive-through. Okay. Can you just describe her car, the officer's car? It was just a regular patrol OPD car, a regular patrol SUV car. A SUV, you said? Yes. Did you see the officer who was associated with that car? Yes, I did. Do you know who it was? Yes, I do. What was her name? Miss Debra Clayton. How do you know Miss Debra Clayton? She comes into the store almost every day and shops before her shift. Did you see her inside Walmart that morning while you were working? Yes, I walked past her. How was she dressed? In her uniform. Okay, can you describe the uniform? It had the belt, accessory to go with it. Like, she was ready for anything. Was it obvious to anyone that she was a law enforcement officer based on her uniform and how she was dressed? Yes, sir. So after you clock out and you went down and checked for your friend and came back to the entrance, yes, sir, did you see Lieutenant Clayton by her patrol car? At that time, she was by her car and the other two people were next to her. Okay. Describe what you saw about how those other two people came back in contact with Lieutenant Clayton. They ran from the grocery entrance and I think ran to her car while she was putting stuff in her car. Can you describe those two people? Male, female, the race? I believe they were both male. One was a child and one was a man. Okay, did you walk up and talk to them at all or see them from a little bit of a distance? I saw them from a distance. You said one was a child? Yes. After you saw Lieutenant Clayton with that adult and that child, where did you go? I sat right there, and I was going to wait for my father, but I seen Miss Liz, and we both walked inside because she was running late. You walked inside that Walmart, that entrance with Miss Liz? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. That's okay. As you were walking into the entrance with Liz, did you pass anybody coming out? Yes, I did. Describe what happened and what you saw. Well, I was going to sit down, and Miss Liz was like, come on, let's go inside because I'm late. So I walked in with her, and we walked past Markeith, and we both said good morning, and then I told her I was going to walk back outside, and that's when all the commotion happened. You mentioned the name Markeith. Yes. Did you know Markeith prior to that day? No. Did you see the person you know as Markeith here in court? Yeah. Can you please point him out and tell me what he's wearing and where he's sitting? He is sitting in the middle, over there on the left-hand side, and he has dreads and a blue mask on. Mr. Buxman, Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant. The court, okay. By Mr. Buxman. How was the defendant dressed when you saw him walking out of Walmart? He had on a security shirt and he was carrying a cart and he had on some baggy pants. Describe the security shirt. What color? It was a black shirt that had security either on the front or on the back. I'm pretty sure it had on the front. Do you remember what color the word security was in? It was white. You said he was pushing a cart? Yes, sir. Did you have any conversation with the defendant? Me and Miss Liz both said good morning, and he said, how are you doing? After you walked into the store and the defendant walked past you walking out of the store, did you hear some kind of a commotion? Yes. I heard Debra Clayton said, stop, freeze, or get on the ground, and that's when Markeith took off. How were you able to see that based on your position inside Walmart? Because after we passed the second double doors, before I was going past Subway, I told Miss Liz, I got to go back outside. I got to wait for my dad. As soon as I turned around, that's when I seen everything happen. Okay, so you're walking in the store and you turned around and you're now looking outside of the store through the doors. Yes, sir. You said you heard Lieutenant Clayton say, get down, stop, or something to that effect? Yes, sir. And after she said that, you said Markeith bolted or something? Yes, sir. He ran from his cart. Okay. He ran from his cart? Yes, sir. Meaning he left the cart and ran away? Left that cart and he took off. If you're walking out of the doors of Walmart, after Lieutenant Clayton said stop or get down, did he bolt to the right or to the left? He bolted to the left. About how far away were you from Lieutenant Clayton when you heard her say, "Get down," or "Stop," or whatever it was you heard? I would say at least probably 10, 15 feet, about the distance we are right now. A little bit further, yeah. A little bit further to the right, yeah. So Lieutenant Clayton yells, "Get down." The defendant bolts to the left. What did you then see Lieutenant Clayton do? Run after him. Which direction? Same direction he ran, to the left. After she followed him to the left, were you able to see either Lieutenant Clayton or the defendant anymore? No, sir. After they both ran to the left, did you hear anything? Yes, sir. What did you hear? I heard one gunshot, and then after that, after the 5 seconds later, I heard 7 shots. Okay. Were you able to actually see with your eyes who fired the first shot? No, sir. Okay. Based on how things transpired and where people were and the sound you heard, do you have an opinion as far as who fired the first shot? Yes, sir. Debra Clayton fired her first shot, and then Markeith Loyd fired the rest of the shots. Is that based on some assumptions you were making about what sound you heard and where things came from? Yes, sir. After you heard that first gunshot, what did you do? I froze. I stood there. And usually they train us for it, to tell us where to go. I froze. I stood right there in front. I didn't know what to do. I just saw managers running up to the door. And me being stupid, I almost tried to run up to the door, but I stood in my spot. So you hear the gunshot, you freeze. Are you still in that frozen position when you hear the other gunshots as well? Yes. At some point after the gunshots are over, what did you do? I called my father. I told him, "Don't come up here, they are shooting." And I remember calming down another associate. And then that's when I realized, it hit me, if I would have stood out there, I would have been in the crossfire of that commotion. That's when I ran to customer service and I got on my knees and I thanked the Heavenly Father for saving my life. Did you ever back outside Walmart until after the police arrived and everything was done and over with? No, sir, I did not go back out. You stayed inside Walmart? Yes, sir. When you first saw the defendant as you were passing him, as you were walking in with Miss Liz and he was walking out, did he look familiar at all to you? Yeah, a little bit. At the time, were you able to pinpoint why he looked a little familiar? No, I couldn't. Not at that time, I could not. After the shooting, while you were inside Walmart, did you come to figure out how you recognized him? Yes. How did you recognize him? After they put us all into the back room, another boss had mentioned his name, and then my ex-girlfriend at the time came to me and asked me, was that him? And I told her to show me a picture of him. And once I saw the picture, I walked off because I knew it was him. Had you ever met him in person before that day? No, sir. At some point that morning while you were in Walmart waiting for the police to do their thing, did you speak with detectives about this event? No, sir. At some point while you were speaking with the detectives, did they show you a package of photographs? Only at the police station. At the police station. So you left Walmart. They took you to the police station? Yes, sir. Were you interviewed there at the police station? Yes, sir. While you were being interviewed at the police station, did they show you a package of photographs? Yes, sir. Mr. Buxman, may I approach, Your Honor? The court, you may. By Mr. Buxman. Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit E for identification. Do you recognize those 2 pages? Yeah. And how do you recognize those pages? Because it's my signature of when I pointed him out. And did you, in fact, choose somebody from that photo lineup as being the person that you saw in the store that morning as you passed him by? Yes, sir. And you indicated your signature and initials are on this document? Yes. Is this in the same or substantially the same condition as when they showed it to you and you initialed and circled the picture? Yes. Mr. Buxman, at this time, the state would move E into evidence as states 5. The court, any objection? Mr. Linneman, no objection. The court, this will be received as states exhibit number 5 without objection as a composite exhibit consisting of 2 pages. Mr. Buxman, may I publish, Your Honor? The court, you may. By Mr. Buxman. Is this the first page of that exhibit I just showed you? Yes, sir. Did the detectives read to you the explanation you see on that form? I'm pretty sure, but I don't recall. Are those your initials at the bottom of that page? Yes, sir. And showing you the second page of states 5, which number did you circle? Number 5. And did you also initial below that photograph? Yes, sir. Did everything you testified to today happen in Orange County, Florida? Yes, sir. Mr. Buxman, thank you, ma'am. No other questions, Your Honor. The court, cross-examination by Mr. Linneman. Good morning, ma'am. Good morning. When you observed Lieutenant Clayton say, get on the ground, she already had her firearm out? Yes, sir. And I think you had said, I want to make sure I heard it right. There was one shot and then a delay followed by a number of shots. Yes, sir. I think you said the delay was somewhere between 5 and 7 seconds. Yes, sir. Mr. Linneman, those are all the questions I have, Judge. The court, redirect. Mr. Buxman, no questions, Your Honor.
All right, the next witness being read to you is Monica Pridgeon.
Direct examination by Mr. Buxman. Going to ask you to move up close to the mic and speak in a pretty loud voice so everybody can hear you, okay? Gotcha. Would you please introduce yourself to the jury? I'm Monica Pridgeon, 39 years old, an Orange County resident. Okay, where do you work now? Wawa. Where did you work before Wawa? Walmart. And during what period of time did you work at Walmart? 2017, 6 months, July to December, January of 2017. I'm going to direct your attention to January 9th of 2017, early morning hours around 7 o'clock, okay? Were you working that morning? Yes, sir. And which Walmart were you working at that morning? Princeton, John Young. What were your duties with Walmart at that time? Overnight stalker. And what did that involve? Stocking the shelves with groceries. What shift did you work? 10 at night until 7 a.m. When your shift is over, do you actually have to physically clock out somehow? Yes, sir. How do you do that? They have different ways around the store, different areas that you can clock out. And I chose the electronic that morning. That morning, did you clock out before you left? No, I forgot. Tell the jury kind of what happened, what went on. Just walked outside. It was kind of chilly that morning. Excuse me. I walked outside, very cold that morning, forgot to clock out. Ran inside, ran back outside, and sit down in the car just to warm the car up. If you're walking outside the doors to go into the parking lot at Walmart, where would your car have been parked? I was parked on the grocery side, right by one of the pillars where the carts go at. I was parked by the wall. Mr. Buxman, may I approach the witness, Your Honor? The court, you may. By Mr. Buxman. Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit BR for identification. Do you recognize what store and parking lot this photograph shows? Yes, sir. What does it show? Walmart, Princeton. All right, okay. Knowing that this was taken a different day than January 9th, does this image fairly and accurately show the structures of Walmart, the parking lot, and locations of various things? Yes, sir. Would this help you to explain to the jury where your car was parked? Yes, sir. Mr. Buxman, Your Honor, may I have permission to use this as a demonstrative aid at this point? The court, any objection? Mr. Linneman, I have no objection to it coming in. The court, all right, you have permission to use it as a demonstrative aid. Mr. Buxman, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Buxman, can you kind of point to the jury first where the Walmart store is? Right here. Okay, and the doors that lead in and out of the grocery entrance of the Walmart? Right there. Where would your car have been parked that morning? Right by the wall by the carts. All right. Ask you to take this pen and just kind of circle where your car would have been. And if you can put your initials inside that circle. Thank you. What kind of car were you driving that morning? 2006 Toyota Corolla. What color was it? Navy blue. So you said you clocked out, you walked over to your car, you sat in your car. What did you do when you got in your car? Warmed the car up because it was cold that morning. I just warmed the car up, turning the windshield wipers on, and I was just sitting there. Were your windows up or down? Down, down. Was your car facing the stop bar of the parking space, or were you backed in? Facing forward. So would the front of your car been, if you were sitting in your car looking out the front windshield, would Walmart have been to your left or the right? Left. While you were inside your car, did you happen to see a law enforcement officer in the Walmart by the Walmart entrance? Yes, sir. Okay. Describe what you saw for the jury. I saw Miss Debra come out of the store. She was putting something in the back of her truck. I saw a female walk up to her with a little boy. She was talking to her about something, and I kept seeing them point at the door towards the grocery. Let me stop you there. You mentioned Debra. Did you know the law enforcement officer by name? Not personally, but she was one of our regular customers. We see her once a week. Did you actually see her inside the store while you were working that morning? Yes, sir. When she would come into your store regularly in the morning, would you interact with her? Yeah, we mess with her, say she's stealing because she had a full uniform on. Okay. When Lieutenant Clayton walked out of the Walmart double doors, exited, was her car to the right or to the left? With me sitting in the car, she was to the left of the front of the store. So from your perspective in the parking lot, her car would have been to the left of the entrance? Yes. If I'm walking out of the Walmart store, it would be to the right? Yep, as soon as you walk out. What kind of car was she driving? She had her police truck, City of Orlando truck, cruiser. Did it have Orlando insignia on it such that if anyone would look at it would know it was a police car? Yes. How was she dressed? Full uniform. Was her car parked in the place where it usually would park when she would stop by on a regular basis? Yes, she parks in the same spot. So she is at her car. What is she doing at her car before you see the lady and the young boy approach her? I remember glancing over, and I just seen her walking to the truck, and I saw her open the back passenger side door. Did she have groceries? She had a bag in her hand, yes. So after the lady and young child walk up and start talking to her, what happens? I can vaguely hear the discussion that they were having, but I watched Miss Debra walk towards the door. They were pointing to the door, and I see Miss Debra walking towards it. And it looked like she was calling for backup, which I figured that she was. She was saying something on her walkie-talkie as she walked towards the door. And could you hear the general conversation from your car? No, too far away from the car. Understood. Okay. Where did the lady and young child go after they made contact with Lieutenant Clayton by her car? I believe she was walking back to her car with the child. Where was her car or the general area where she was walking? Where was that in relation to your car? I want to say behind me where I was parked at. I don't know directly. Do you know? But it was behind me. I'm sorry? It was behind me. Do you know what vehicle the lady and young child eventually got in or owned? No, sir. You just know it was someplace behind you. Nods head. After Lieutenant Clayton spoke to the lady and the child, you said she got on her radio. Where did she go? Where did she start walking? She walked towards the grocery door, the grocery entrance. And when she got near the grocery entrance, did you hear anything said in a loud enough voice you could have heard it from your car? She said something. She said, "Hey, you," to him. She said something to him towards the door. And then when the doors opened, it was like everything just went left. Were you able to hear Lieutenant Clayton say, "Hey, you," from inside of your car? She said, to be honest, she said something. I was tired that morning, and I know she was saying something when the door opened. And I was just sitting there looking in the car, not trying to be nosy. But something was said. I believe it was, "Hey, you." Some kind of command, you just don't know what, you just don't know specifically. Right. She said something to him, but I wasn't trying to be nosy. Who was she talking to? Markeith Loyd. Where was Markeith Loyd when she said whatever it was she said? Pushing a cart out of Walmart. You mentioned the name Markeith Loyd. At that time, did you know Markeith Loyd? No, sir. Can you describe the person pushing that cart that you referred to as Markeith Loyd? Tall, brown skin, low haircut, black t-shirt, either blue jeans or like camouflage sweatpants on. By Mr. Buxman, did you remember anything, any writing on the dark shirt? Security. Okay, what color was the security written in? All black. Oh, all white. I'm sorry. Then there was a sidebar. Mr. Buxman, do you see in the courtroom here the person you referred to as Markeith Loyd? Yes, sir. Could you please point him out and tell me what he's wearing and where he's sitting? Sitting to my left, black shirt on, dreadlocks. Mr. Buxman, Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant. The court, yes. Mr. Buxman, thank you. You said the defendant was, I believe he was pushing a cart? Yes. Do you remember anything inside the cart? A case of great value bottled water and a bag of canned goods. Once you heard Lieutenant Clayton say whatever it is she said to him, what did you see the defendant do? There was a scuffle between the cart and the pillar. The pillar blocked me, so I couldn't see everything when they first interacted with each. When you say a scuffle, were they physically touching each other? No, the cart was in the way. He had a cart with him. I want to do it. The way he was just gesturing, like trying to go around, dodge somebody. Hold on. Let me ask you a more direct question. After Lieutenant Clayton said whatever it was she said, did the defendant remain with the cart or did he separate from the cart? He was still with the cart. At some point, did he separate from the cart? Yes. After he separated from the cart, what direction did you see him go? Run around the pillar. Is that pillar, if you're walking out of Walmart, would that pillar have been to the right or the left? To the right. Let me show left, I'm sorry. That's okay. Do you remember? It's on the left. Sorry. After you see the defendant move to the left towards that pillar, what did you see Lieutenant Clayton do? It's like she was trying to take cover. Which direction did she go? She ended up in the middle of the road. Okay, did you see what happened between the point where the defendant bolted to the left toward the pillar and Lieutenant Clayton ended up toward the middle of the road? Only in the beginning when the doors first opened, I saw that part. And then once around that pillar, it was like a tree or something blocking me. One of the hedges in Walmart right there where you park at was blocking me. And I just seen Miss Debra pop up in the middle of the road. When Lieutenant Clayton first said something to the defendant, do you know if she had her gun out at all? She had her hand on her gun. Okay. Still holstered? Uh-huh. Is that a yes? Yes. That's okay. When After the defendant bolted to the left around the pillar, did you see whether the defendant had any gun in his hand? Yes. At what point did you see the gun in his hand? Where was he? Standing on the opposite side of the pillar where I could see him. At that time, did Lieutenant Clayton have her gun out yet? Yes. How was it positioned when it was out? Lieutenant Clayton's gun. Was it up in the air? Was it pointed down? In the air. At some point, did you hear a gunshot? Yes. Based on your vantage point, do you know who fired the first shot? Yes. Who? Markeith Loyd. How do you know that? I was standing there watching. Where was he when he fired that shot? Right by the pillar. And how was Lieutenant Clayton positioned when he fired that shot? She was in the middle of the road shooting. After the defendant fired the first shot, did Lieutenant Clayton then fire shots? Yes, sir. Do you remember about how many shots in total were fired? As far as the lieutenant, I want to say about 5 to 8 rounds. Did you see how Lieutenant Clayton ended up when you saw Lieutenant Clayton in the middle of the roadway area? Was she standing or was she on the ground? Standing. Okay. After you saw her in the middle of the road area, what did you see Lieutenant Clayton do? I saw her fall. After she fell, describe what happened. I ran across the parking lot, over the hedges, jumped over the hedges, and I ran to her. I kept looking at Markeith. I didn't know if he was going to turn around. He still had the gun in his hand, and I ran up to her. After Lieutenant Clayton went to the ground, where was the defendant when she went to the ground? Getting in the car. Okay, you said getting in the car? Nods head. Where was his car parked in relation to where Lieutenant Clayton was? I want to say about anywhere from 10 to 15 feet away from her body. Were you inside your car the entire time this was happening? No, sir. At what point, back up. Did you get out of your car at some point? Yes, sir. When? When they started scuffling. Why did you get out of your car? Because I knew something wasn't right. At any time, did you see the defendant near Lieutenant Clayton when Lieutenant Clayton was on the ground? Yes. Describe what you saw. When he was shooting, he was just shooting and walking. And he just kept shooting her when she was on the ground. So she was on the ground and he was standing and he shot her. Right. Am I correct on that? Nods head. After that, is that when he went to his car? Yes, sir. What kind of car do you remember him getting in? It was an old school Oldsmobile, I believe. It was an old school car. Do you remember if it was a light or dark color? Hunter green body, and it had like a drop top or rag top, cream colored on the top. As the defendant was walking to his car and getting in the car, is that when you started walking from your car to where Lieutenant Clayton was located? No, sir. Okay. At what point did you start walking from your car to where Lieutenant Clayton's car was, or Lieutenant Clayton was, excuse me? After the shooting stopped. Okay. What did you see the defendant do once he got into that dark colored car? Just back up slowly and drive off. Do you remember which direction he drove? He went as if you're driving, he went to the front entrance as if you're going towards Mercy Drive from that Walmart. At some point, did you get to Lieutenant Clayton? Yes. Excuse me. Did anybody else arrive near Lieutenant Clayton when she was on the ground after all this happened? 2 other officers. Okay. Did you arrive by her side before the officers did or after? Yes, sir. When you got to Lieutenant Clayton's side, what was she doing? Mr. Linneman, objection. The court overruled. The witness looking at me and trying to get to her walkie-talkie. Mr. Buxman, where was her walkie-talkie? Up on her shoulder. Was she talking or saying anything or trying to talk to you? Trying. Did you see any injuries to her? Yes. What did you see? The hole in her neck. Mr. Buxman, I have no further questions for you, ma'am. Thank you, Your Honor. The court, cross-examination by Mr. Linneman. Morning, ma'am. It's important to you, ma'am, to be able to help these gentlemen here, these prosecutors in this case. Is that right? Yes, sir. You have to speak up, ma'am. Yes, sir. Thank you. As a matter of fact, 3 years after this incident occurred, isn't it true that you remember that additional thing that she said was stop? Yes, sir. Okay. And when you were asked in deposition about that, you said that the only reason you're remembering it now is because you were in shock then. The court, page and line, please. Mr. Linneman, I'm not impeaching. The court, you still need to give us page and line. Mr. Linneman, it's deposition, page 21. The court, thank you. Isn't it true that you said you remembered now because you were shaken up and shocked? Yes, sir. And today you came in and swore under oath to tell the truth. Is that right, ma'am? Yes, sir. And I heard you distinctly say that you vaguely remember the discussion between Miss Bryant and Lieutenant Clayton. Is that correct? That's what you said here in court. Yes, sir. Right? Yes, sir. And when you first observed Lieutenant Clayton and Miss Bryant talking, you believed that they were talking about someone stealing. Isn't that right? No, sir. Would anything refresh your recollection about that, like your deposition or your statement? No, sir. So if I give you something to read right now, a statement that you had given before, you're telling this jury that that would not refresh your recollection? No, sir. Isn't it true that you heard Miss Bryant saying there is a gentleman in the store stealing? She said he might be getting ready to come out, but he was, we see him, and I don't, sounded like she said he had something on him, but other than that, I didn't. Do you remember saying that? No, sir. I'm referring to page 5 of her statement. You were asked the following questions. Question, the court, line. Mr. Linneman, there's no line, Judge. It begins, the question is, oh, okay, what was she saying? The court, all right, thank you. Mr. Linneman, you were asked the question by Detective Ferrer of the Orlando Police Department, and he asked you the question, oh, okay, what was she saying? And your response was, there was a gentleman in the store stealing. She said he might be getting ready to come out, but he was, we see him, and I don't, sounded like she said he had something on him, but other than that, I didn't. Do you remember giving that statement under oath, ma'am? No, sir. I'm not trying to be rude, ma'am, at all, I promise. But have you had any kind of injury that would have impaired your memory between, no, sir, the Walmart incident and now? No, sir. And isn't it true that you had your window down and you were being nosy? Yes, sir. So you were listening to what they were saying. Couldn't hear, but yes, sir. Isn't it true that Miss Bryant said, and you overheard her say, she observed someone in the store shoplifting? No, sir. You gave a statement to the police under oath where you swore to tell the truth like today, correct? Yes, sir. And you were asked the following questions on page 6 at the very top. Question, that's okay, just don't want you to lose it. She was, so you had your window down and you heard, and your answer was, she observed someone in the store shoplifting. Do you remember giving that statement, ma'am? No, sir. And you mentioned that you could not see a portion of this because you were blocked by some bushes or a tree, something like that? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Isn't it true that you never observed any kind of chase from Lieutenant Clayton after going after Markeith Loyd? Can you repeat that question again? Isn't it true that you never observed any chase from Lieutenant Clayton going after Markeith Loyd? No, sir. It's not true, or it is true? No, sir, it's not true. Do you remember giving a deposition on February 2020, page 17, line 16? Question, did you see her give chase to him? Answer, no, there was no chase. Do you remember giving that statement? Yes, sir. So you did not see a chase, scuffle. I'm sorry, there wasn't. No, sir. And when you say a scuffle, you're talking about at the front area where he comes out with a cart. Yes, sir. That's what you're referring to? Yes, sir. You don't see her turn and run parallel to where Mr. Lloyd is running with her arm extended with a gun giving chase? No, sir. Well, if you didn't see her chasing with her gun out, and you said that at the door she had her hand on her gun, when did you see her with a taser? During the scuffle. When they had the scuffle, that's when I thought it was a taser until she came out and she was standing in the road, and that's when I seen her gun. I thought it was a taser. I'm sorry. I was tired that morning. But you testified earlier that when she was there in front of him, when he's coming out, she had her hand on her gun. As she walked towards the door, and she didn't have it out? No. Do you know how many shots, detective? I know you estimated between 5 and 8. Do you know how many shots she actually fired? Actually, no, sir. You said that Mr. Lloyd fired more. Isn't that right? Yes, sir. Do you know actually how many he fired? No, sir. Mr. Linneman, I'm almost done, Judge. I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Judge. The court, redirect, Mr. Buxman. Redirect examination. Mr. Buxman, when the lady with the small child walked up and approached Lieutenant Clayton, were you able to hear all the details of the conversation or just kind of give a general gist of it? No, sir. The statement that Mr. Linneman referred to that you gave to law enforcement, yes, sir. Where was that statement given? In the camera room. At Walmart? Yes, sir. Do you remember about how long after this event took place? I'd say about 10, 15 minutes after it happened. So shortly after it happened, you were brought into the camera room and you were spoken to. Yes, sir. Once police arrived. Mr. Buxman, thank you, ma'am.
All right, the next witness is Detective Caddis.
I'm starting at this is cross, right? I think they're just okay. Isn't this cross? Yeah. So this is cross-examination, and we are on page 32, line 15. You didn't want to go down the rabbit hole that possibly Lieutenant Clayton may have shot first. I didn't consider that to be a rabbit hole. I believe 3 different times Detective Mareshi and I went back to the Walmart to see. As I was reviewing the video frame by frame, I said, hey, let's go back out to the Walmart. I want to see if any of her rounds struck the building. Because her firing angle, she was firing straight up. So I didn't think it was necessarily plausible that she struck the building. But I wanted to make sure. Once everybody was cleared, the scene was cleared, and we could go out and spend some time on that building, yeah, I went and checked and did not see any impact on that building from bullet strikes. So it's your testimony that you looked at the wall, which would have been behind Mr. Lloyd going towards the other side of the Walmart, and saw no strikes? Is that your testimony? My testimony, our focus, when I looked at the video, my focus was actually on the upper part of the Walmart and pillars. I felt if she had fired off a round towards the building, that's where it would have struck, based on the video of her firing from her back. As far as, and I know you had found an impact on a windowsill that we couldn't say is relevant or not. I can't say that specifically we checked that windowsill to say that there were no impacts. But my search was based on the video of where she may have impacted the building, and I did not see any strikes at that point. It's actually a concrete wall, which is on the Walmart. Right. There's a concrete wall, but there's windows with an aluminum frame would be in the trajectory path of Lieutenant Clayton. And it's your testimony you didn't check those? That I didn't? Did not or did? We checked them. We did not specifically check the windowsills. Again, I based my search on the likely trajectory path based on the video. Mr. Linneman, I have no further questions. Okay. And now that's...
Is that it on detect? All right, next up is Dr. Joshua Stephany.
And this is cross-examination by Mr. Linneman, starting at line 25. Okay, of those 4 wounds, which would cause her to become unconscious? The wounds that I described, the one that went through her neck and exited her left back, would be the most severe of all 4 I described. The one that went through her right buttock and exited her abdomen could also cause her to lose consciousness, but not right away. Okay, and were you at any time, doctor, given the bulletproof vest that Lieutenant Clayton was wearing at the time of her death? Could you repeat the question, please? Were you at any time given the vest that she was wearing to examine at any time? No. So you couldn't actually say whether those wounds were caused by going through her vest or going through another portion that's not covered. I couldn't say what the projectile went through prior to her body. No. But you did testify there was at least one that was passing through and was not able to get out because of some hard surface? Correct. And that would be consistent with the vest? Yes. And the wound to her neck, could you tell us or tell the jury how far above the top of the vest would that wound be? I can't tell you that because I don't know where the vest would have been placed on her. Okay. Now, you would agree with me hypothetically if Lieutenant Clayton was moving away and shooting, that she would be able to continue shooting even on the ground until she's incapacitated. Isn't that correct? I'm not sure I understand your question. Can you repeat it, please? My hypothetical is you said that there were 2 wounds that were possible that could cause unconsciousness. Is that right? Yes. The neck wound and the hip wound, correct? Yes. Let's say hypothetically she was shot in the hip and it caused her to fall. Would you be surprised if she had the ability to continue to fire her gun even after that wound? No. Mr. Linneman, I have no further questions. Thank you. The court, thank you. Redirect. Redirect examination by Mr. Buxman. Could Lieutenant Clayton have survived any of those gunshot wounds except for the wound to her neck? Yes. So the 3 wounds, the wound to her leg, to her buttock, and to her abdomen being superficial wounds, she could have survived. Well, the one to her buttock was not superficial, but I do not believe it would have been instantly incapacitating, so I believe it is possible she could have survived it if she made it to the hospital in time. The wound to her neck would have been the fatal wound? Yes. Thank you, doctor.
All right, that concludes all of the readbacks as to count one. Is there anything else as to count one that you all wanted read back? No? All right. All right, these are the readbacks as to count two, starting with Captain Joseph Carter.
Direct examination by Mr. Williams. Do one more, Captain. It's a composite. So while Mr. Lenneman is looking at the photographs, you were describing how you pulled in behind the suspect vehicle. Is that right? Yes, sir. What did you start to do? As the vehicle stopped, I saw him pull in. So I pull in behind him, leaving distance there, and I turn my vehicle at an angle and turn the wheels to give myself cover so I could start to step out and address the suspect. Were you able to step out of your vehicle? Not fully. And why were you not able to step out of your vehicle? I had the door open, probably had a foot either on the ground or just about on the ground. I could see the suspect standing by his car door, standing up, looking at me, and about the time I started to put some weight and stand up, I heard 2 shots, pop, pop. Saw his hand come up and 2 shots fired at me. What did you do in response to the shots that were fired? Got back in the car and backed up a little bit farther and turned the car at a greater angle, more perpendicular to the back of his vehicle. Mr. Williams, Your Honor, may I approach the witness with what's been marked as State's Composite J? The court, you may. Mr. Williams, Captain Carter, I'm showing you State's Composite J. It's a composite of 6 photographs. Could you please look at each individually and then let me know when you've had a chance to do that? Yes, sir. Do you recognize the images depicted in the 6 photographs, sir? Yes, sir, I do. And what do they depict? They depict the scene where the suspect car came to stop and I followed the suspect car in. Are they fair and accurate representations of the things that you identified and saw at the complex when you were shot at on the morning of January 9th, 2017? Yes, sir. Mr. Williams, that was a mouthful, I know. Your Honor, at this time, we'd ask the court to admit States J as States 9. The court, any objections? Mr. Lenneman, do you have an objection to the exhibit? Mr. Lenneman, oh, I said no objections, sorry. The court, all right. How many photos are in that? Mr. Williams, 6, Your Honor. The court, all right, this will be admitted without objection as State's Exhibit number 9. It is a composite exhibit consisting of 6 photographs. Mr. Williams, Your Honor, permission to publish State's Exhibit 9. The court, granted. By Mr. Williams. Captain Carter, I'm going to put some photographs on the screen in front of you. They should come up, should. Can you see the first photograph? Yes, sir, the apartments. All right, so is that the approximate location or the apartment at the approximate location where you pulled in? Yes, sir, it appears. I'm now publishing photograph number 2 of State's Exhibit 9. What are we looking at in that photograph, sir? As you can see in the far end of the photograph, that is the suspect vehicle now with the trunk open, the car door open. Car door was open when I pulled up behind it. I believe they opened the trunk later. Crime scene tape up there, and this is my gray, at the time, gray Ford Explorer backed out of the alcove, or backed up just a little bit there. Now, where your police vehicle is in that photograph, is that where you reversed to? Yes, sir. That's where I reversed to and stopped. In other words, does that photograph fairly and accurately depict where your car came to rest after the shots were fired? Yes, sir. All right. It hasn't been moved? No, sir, not there. Okay, I want to back up a moment. You said that when you first pulled in behind the vehicle, You were closer than what's depicted in this photograph, right? Yes, sir. The vehicle would have been on the other side of the yellow tape. Would it have been lined up parallel? Yes, sir. More linearly with a slight cant to it and the wheels turned. Okay. Now, you said something a moment ago I want to go back to, and that is that as you began to get out of your vehicle, the individual in the car was already standing and looking at you. Yes, sir. All right. Describe that, please. You look up. What do you see? As I come in, I saw the car had made that little quick turn into the right there. I followed in, turning the wheel, looking up. And then I see, okay, the car is stopped. The door is open. The suspect is standing by the car door, out facing me. That's when I'm turning the wheel, trying to get lined up, trying to get ready to address the suspect. Initially, when the suspect is facing you, could you see a firearm? I saw his hand at his side. Could I distinctly say there was a firearm in his hand? Not initially. It was happening fast. All right, when did you first notice the firearm? When I heard the 2 shots. So his hand came up and I heard 2 shots, and is it a fair statement that as you first pulled in, he was standing at attention waiting for you? Yes, sir, that's a true statement. Can you describe the individual standing next to the car? Taller, thinner, black male, short to medium, unkempt hair, somewhere not young, older than 20, 20s, 30s, somewhere in that range. Were you able to identify any of his clothing? He was wearing dark clothing. But that's all you could see? Yes, sir. All right, so now let's fast forward back again. You have reversed your car and turned your wheels. What do you do next? At some point in there, either backing up or getting out, I see him take off on the run. And if you look at the photograph, to the left of the door and around the corner of the apartment. So let's go through the photographs again. I just published number 3 of State's Exhibit 9. Is that a fair depiction of the rear of your vehicle? Yes, sir, it is. And the lights are on, is that right? Yes, sir. The emergency lights, to be specific? Yes, sir. Photograph number 4, we'll come back to that in a moment. You said that, let's see. Can you see where the suspect ran in that photograph? Yes, sir, you can. And I'm publishing number 6 of State's Exhibit 9. Can you describe for the jurors where you saw the individual run? So as you look at the vehicle, on the other side is the driver's door. He left the driver door, and that would be to the east. If you can see in the back, there is yellow crime scene tape in between a wooden fence and the apartment. He ran around that corner of the apartment to the east around the corner. Did you ever see the suspect after he ran around the corner? No, sir, I did not. Did you ever see him again? No, sir, I did not. So now he takes flight. What's the next thing that you do after making that observation? Say that again, sir? The next thing that you did, you're still in your car, you've backed out, and you've seen the suspect take off. What's the next thing that you did? At that point, I get on the radio, call in for backup and help. Say that he shot at me, I'm uninjured, and this is most likely the suspect that we were looking for, and gave the direction that he ran off in. Were you present when other law enforcement officers arrived on the scene to assist you? Yes, sir, they did. Did you ever let or allow anyone to go near the suspect vehicle before or even after that? Not before they arrived. All right, after they arrived, did you observe anybody go inside the vehicle and look around? No, sir, no, sir. Did you eventually have an opportunity to inspect your agency SUV for marks? Yes, sir, I did. And what did you find when you did that inspection? As I was parked there, and I think it was after the point we cleared the car, opened the trunk, made sure there was nobody in there, secured the scene, started to put up crime scene tape. Somebody walked up and said, "Hey, there's a bullet hole in your hubcap." And that's when I turned around and looked and said, "Yes." So I'm now publishing photograph number 4 of State's Exhibit 9, and now 5 of State's Exhibit 9. Is that the hole you were referring to? Yes, sir. Prior to the morning of January 9th of 2017, was that hole there? No, sir. In photograph 6, we looked at it in terms of the background, but is that the vehicle that you followed into the apartment complex? Yes, sir, it is. You said that you walked up to the vehicle and either you or others opened the trunk to make sure there was nobody inside, right? Correct? Yes, sir. When you approached the vehicle, did you look for any shell casings or projectiles on the ground, or did you see any is a better question. I think eventually, yes, I did see some shell casings on the ground, and I believe we marked them with a card or something so that when forensics would arrive, they would know where they're located. Mr. Williams, that's all I have. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Your Honor. The witness, yes, sir. The court, cross. Mr. Lenneman, yes, ma'am. Mr. Williams, would you like these down, Mr. Lenneman? Mr. Lenneman, doesn't matter. Cross-examination by Mr. Lenneman. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. You said you eventually inspected the area for some casings, correct? Yes, sir. Inspected the area? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. Can you please repeat? You said you looked for some casings. Yes, sir, I did. And you said you saw some casings. Yes. Isn't it true that only one casing was collected from that area? I don't know how many casings they collected. Have you looked at the pictures or read the crime scene reports? I've referred to it, but not in depth. Now, you had testified that you saw the vehicle and you were pulling up towards the vehicle and you started to get out, and that's when you said you heard 2 shots. Yes, sir. You actually at that point ducked behind the console. Isn't that right? There could have been that, yes. That's very possible. As soon as you heard the shots, you ducked and began to reverse the vehicle, right? That's most likely true, yes. Okay, and you didn't even think that the vehicle had been struck, correct? At that time, no. I did not hear anything to indicate that the vehicle had been struck. But certainly later on, you found out that the vehicle had been struck on the passenger side front wheel, correct? Yes, sir. Mr. Lenneman, that's all the questions I have. The court, redirect. Mr. Williams? Yes, Your Honor. Redirect examination by Mr. Williams. Captain Carter, over the course of your 31 years, have you ever heard gunfire before? Yes, sir. How many times? Many. Hundreds? Yes. Thousands? Probably so, yes. Any doubt that there were shots that were fired at you that day? No, sir, no doubt. Did you actually see the gun in the man's hand? Say that again. Did you actually see the gun in the man's hand? Yes, sir. The hand came up. I heard the shots. I looked and I saw something in his hand. Mr. Williams, no further questions, Your Honor.
Right, next is the testimony of Markeith Loyd as to count 2.
So this is a portion of direct examination of Mr. Lloyd. Question, okay, and where did you go? Answer, I drove, I went down, made a right on Princeton, went down all the way to Silver Star. Going down Silver Star to Pine Hills Road. I make a right on Pine Hills Road, and I'm going down Pine Hills Road. So as I'm going down Pine Hills Road, I pass North Lane. So it's an unmarked coming this way, so I'm going. I see the unmarked turn back around, so I'm like, all right, here they come. So I could have kept going, but I wasn't gonna do a high speed. Even though they trying to kill me, but I don't want to put no one else in danger. And from what I know about high-speed chases, other people get killed. not just the person driving, but any other people. So I make a right to get out the car. When I get out the car, he ended up pulling up. So when he pulled up, I fired one warning shot so he wouldn't try to come after me, try to cause me any harm. So I fired one warning shot to hope that holds him. So when I fired the one warning shot, I just turned around and just started running. Okay, did you know where you fired the warning shot? Just like I told you before, I thought it was in the air, but I guess it was towards the ground. Okay, and so where do you go after that? So when I fired the warning shot, so I'm running and I'm running. And then this is a portion from cross-examination. Question, just like you didn't see a gun when Captain Carter tried to take you into custody either, right? I fired a warning shot at him too. And by warning shot, you mean a shot that hit his car? Answer, yes. Question, yes. Hit his tire. Right, not in the air. Hit his, no, towards the ground, hit his tire, but I'm charged with attempted murder though. That concludes.
All right, that was the readbacks requested as to count 2. Are there any other readbacks that you are requesting from these witnesses? All right, thank you very much. You may retire to consider your verdict. Anything else from state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else from defense? All right, we're in recess awaiting the verdict. Thank you to the court reporters.